Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. Today, I've got my mom's cousin Lila with me, and we're going to talk about acquired brain injury and what it is, how it's affected Lila, and how you can work around it and work with it instead of working um, with it hampering you as much. So, Lila is very accomplished, and we're going to talk a little bit about what she does and what she has done, even though she has had this injury. So, welcome, Lila. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Kim.
You're very welcome. So, let's talk about why we're talking about acquired brain injury today. Can you tell us exactly what it is?
Um, yeah, um, brain injury is it's any kind of a damage to the brain. So that could be through a fall, it could be through um, brain tumors, it could be through a car accident. Most of them probably are through MBAs, but
Hmm.
any kind of illness. There's so many illnesses that will mess up your brain, and if your brain's affected, it's we need to make this so much more serious and so people
For
understand
sure.
it better because a lot of people have them, are embarrassed about them. uh,
Yeah,
I knew somebody who said that she was one knife, wha- one oh shoot. She was like, she was it was a I'm sorry, this is part of the brain injury word finding.
that's okay.
Okay. Anyway, she basically made a joke about how she was not all there.
Okay, one knife short of a set kind of thing.
Yes, that was what I was trying to, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I really want to, and I've been trying to, like, help start a brain injury support group here, like 15 years, 14 years ago, and
Okay.
we called it Grateful Heads, and I did a logo for it. This is the logo I designed for the Grateful Heads.
Oh, that's wonderful. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, and then and I write for this magazine sometimes too. It's
Oh, wow, nice.
it's um it's a brain injury magazine out of London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then a few articles and stuff, but uh,
Nice.
yeah. But anyways, your question was, what is a brain injury? So,
Yes.
um, for some reason, why am I okay? Sorry, I have to have notes.
That's okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Just can't do it without notes.
Yeah,
So, Canadian medicine calls it an acquired brain injury,
right.
and that means it's something that happened to you after birth. So it wasn't
Right.
hereditary or anything like that. Um,
Okay.
but in the US, it's called a traumatic brain injury or a
Yes, it
TBI,
is.
TBI
Yeah,
for short. And
yeah.
that's what mine really is. It's a traumatic
Yeah,
brain
it
injury.
is.
I was in a
Yes.
motorcycle accident, but I guess they changed it to acquired brain injury up here because they wanted to include people with brain tumors and people with strokes.
Mm.
Strokes are a big
Mhm.
common brain
Are
injury.
they ever? Yeah.
Yes, and so uh, I don't know. Brain injury is really common in like athletes, skiers, hockey
Yes.
players, and unfortunately, as well, it's really common in the military, like people,
Absolutely.
soldiers who've been to war, and so
Yeah.
when they come back, oftentimes they're so like you know 80 years ago, they called that what they used to call it,
Shell
um,
shock.
shell shock, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
now it's a brain injury. So now they're
Yes.
calling it what it is, right? I think
Absolutely.
when it was called shell shock, I think people had less tolerance for
Mhm.
any of their shortcomings. I
Yeah.
know my mom's brother went to war and came back a completely different person,
Yeah.
totally different. And
Yes.
she said he was a really nice kid. When he came back, he was just angry, and Yeah. So anyway,
So
but
that
mhm,
might also be like a PTSD or PTSI, like a post-traumatic stress injury,
part of that, yeah, part of it.
and that as
Mhm,
well as the acquired brain injury, like
yes,
the
that's
physical.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them nowadays are learning more about it, and they're using dogs to guide them, like
Yes.
to calm them down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who come back with that kind of PTSD or brain injury can become
Mhm.
alcoholics. They can become addicts. They
Yeah.
can be homeless.
Yeah.
And so I am always careful that when I walk down the street and there's somebody sitting on the side or laying on the sidewalk, I'll say hello to them. I'll look at them, I'll smile at them, and I'll say hello because you have no idea
Wonderful.
where they've been,
You don't
right?
know their story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I've even
Many
sat
people.
down and talked to one once. So
Oh, me too, actually.
yeah, yeah.
Many people who watch this channel also watch a channel called The Lifeboat with Tommy Scoville, and he was a
Oh,
professional skier for quite
okay.
some time, and he landed on his head without a helmet
Oh,
more times than you can count, just learning backflips and that kind of thing. And
nice.
he's been in fights and whatever, but then he also did become an addict.
Wow.
Um, when the doctors took him off the legal medication, he had to medicate some other way.
Mm,
And so
yeah,
that led him into a whole pile of other mess. And
right.
The Lifeboat is an excellent channel if you
I'll
want
have
to
to
have
check that
support for
out.
anything. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, I'll have to check that out. Hmm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself before the or before the acquired brain injury.
Um, well, I was kind of I was I made some bad choices in life.
Hmm.
So I
Don't we
graduated
all?
yeah, I graduated from grade 12.
Hmm.
I was a really good student until about grade 10. Like I was an A
Yeah.
plus student. I
Oh,
even was a
wow.
teacher's assistant with grammar and composition.
Wow.
And but then around grade 10, I started getting panic attacks and
Mm.
extreme anxiety, which it turned into agoraphobia a little bit later.
Hmm.
But thankfully, that only lasted until like maybe 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
But and I'm fine now. But it
Wonderful.
was yeah. So the question again. Uh,
What was your life beforehand?
right, right.
So yeah,
Um,
you can start off after high school if you like.
okay. Yeah. So after grade 12, I applied to my mom drove me all the way to Brandon and applied for a really good art college. It's a 3-year commercial art program, but I was put
Okay.
on a waiting list. So I decided
Mm.
to go away for a
Hmm.
year and a half. And so I went up to the Arctic, up to Pine Point. It's not there anymore, but it's
Okay.
a town in Northwest Territories.
Hmm.
Went up there. I came back to another mining town and met somebody there, and I got married instead of going to college that year.
That
So
can be good, but
yeah,
many times you need to get the education as well.
well, it's not just that, but for me, I did get married because of my anxiety. I couldn't be alone.
Oh,
I couldn't be
okay,
alone, and I just wanted somebody there with me all the time. And so,
okay.
he was a nice guy, you
Yeah,
know. We're not married anymore, but he's a nice guy, and but we had a lot of problems. Or yeah, so we had a lot
yeah,
of problems, but yeah. So
okay.
yeah,
All right.
but
And what sorts of things did you do for fun before your injury?
um, oh, I was a major cook. Not
Mhm.
anymore because I forget, like, recipes now have to be, like, 5 items and shorter, but I
Right,
used to be a
right.
major cook, so I'd start, like, 6:30 in the morning and, like,
Wow.
to have a nice dinner at nighttime
Oh,
for
wow.
guests,
Okay.
and,
That's something I don't have the patience for.
well, yeah, and I just would work all day, and I just love it, and then when they go because it was one of the things I knew I could do well. I had really
Right.
low self-esteem,
Okay. Yeah.
and I mean, I guess I was smart too, but I screwed that up and, so but,
Okay.
yeah, anything. I think
Okay.
with poor self-esteem, you just wanna make it poor, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyway,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so I'd make a nice four-course dinner or sometimes I had mystery murder dinners. Those were I I did
Fun.
them until maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
It gets really hard just to So what I do when I have a mystery dinner is just have somebody else be the host, and I just
Mhm.
do the cooking. I don't even play the game. I just have a table. I mean, a place setting at the table, and I just join in, like just
Oh, wow.
yeah. But yeah, so that was one thing. I wrote for the Hamilton Spectator as a
Okay.
right, journalist once,
Mhm.
like maybe 10, 15 articles.
Wow.
Um, what else have I done? I don't know. I like to paint, of course. That's my
Mhm.
main thing. I paint.
Mhm.
I used to be an portrait artist, so
Yes.
I paint portraits on commission. Sold my
Yep.
first pair when I was 16, and
Wow.
there then yeah. So I went to uh, I don't know where I should be at right now. Maybe you
That's
can lead.
okay. Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Actually, I have seen some of your portraits.
Hmm.
Um, at the last family gathering we had at Manitou in Saskatchewan,
Yes.
somebody
Oh,
brought
yeah.
along a few of your portraits, and oh
Right.
my word, the detail, they were just
Aw.
beautiful. Your talent is incredible.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's something that is a real talent that I wish I had, but at the same time, we all have what we can do,
You
right?
have something else, right?
Yes,
You
absolutely.
have a talent that I want. Actually, you are an artist. What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, I did those guys. I've done
Yeah,
another I've done a quite a few similar. So, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
I just
I do art.
oh yeah, she's an artist, and I love your
So
pour paintings.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that
Mm,
I had one up behind me for a little while as well.
mhm.
So tell me, how did your injury happen?
Um, well, I was out here in Ontario in Hamilton for 19 years, and
Mhm.
then it just got so we got it's a single parent and sole supporting. The father was ill.
Yeah.
Um, we had a really hard time financially. So
Mhm.
after 19 years, we finally decided to move back to Choiceland and at home, and we moved into my dad's house. He had moved into a nursing home or
Mhm.
a retirement home, I should say.
Right.
And so we went there, and it was wonderful living in a small town after living in the Golden Horseshoe. Like
Mhm.
it's just so nice, and the kids loved it. I was kind of
Yeah.
worried big city kids might, but they would never go back to that area again. And
Right.
so anyway, we moved out there, and then I got a job right away with the foster care program as
Okay.
a special needs worker. And so
Ah.
I did that for a year and a half. And then after I was there for a year and a half, Lee and I went up to the main office to talk to somebody about one of the clients. And we didn't quite make it. We made it as far as just the outskirts of that city. And
Mhm.
uh, um, a lumber truck ran a stop sign. We didn't run it. He actually stopped, but
Okay.
he was looking left, and which is the way I was coming. But you would know this.
Mhm.
Saskatchewan has the most brilliant sunshine ever, and
Oh,
this was
yes.
like it's the worst in the whole country. Not the
At
worst. I should
certain
say.
times of days, it's
Yeah,
absolutely blinding when
it
you're
is.
driving.
And this
Yeah.
was almost 4 o'clock in the middle of
Oh.
December. So the sun,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Right
So
at that time.
yeah. And, so obviously he just couldn't see me. That's what he said, he couldn't see me, and we totally, we support him. Well, we did support. I think he's gone now, but
Okay.
he had a hard time with that, and
Absolutely.
he always wanted to go and talk to him.
Mhm.
She was with me, my daughter, but yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we got smucked at highway speed by a fairly good sized lumber truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
That
like
would
a,
definitely
a lumberyard truck, right? Not like a big
right.
transport or anything, but yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. So, what injuries did you sustain?
Um, well, uh Well, the head injury, of course, is the most prominent and the most lasting. It
Mm-hmm.
affects me most still 20 years later, right? So a lot of
Absolutely.
the other injuries healed, of course,
Yep.
but I had 3 broken limbs, so they were all set with metal rods.
Mm-hmm.
I had all my ribs broken over my heart
Oh,
because
wow.
it's where I hit the steering wheel,
Yeah.
and, it ruptured the aorta, so I had to have a partial bypass.
Wow.
And, then I had a broken neck, so the C1, 2, and 3 were fractured, I guess, or broke.
Yeah.
I think one of them was broken, but what they ended up having to do was to fuse 2 of them. I think it was 2 and 3
Okay.
they had to fuse, and then one was not broken through, I think, but it was cracked. And
Okay.
remember, this is all from hearsay because I have no memory of the accident for 2 months after.
Absolutely.
And for me to absorb it and file it in my memory in the right spot is almost impossible. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah, so there was that. My liver was lacerated. I had a couple things, organ damage. It was pretty messed up. And so I
Absolutely.
was in a coma for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started coming out of that, then they induced a coma. So I
Right.
was in coma total for 7.5 weeks. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and Leah had her femur broken. She had
Mm-hmm.
clavicle broken. Um, Another severe and brain injury. She had already had one as an infant. So
Mm.
she had infantile febrile seizures,
Oh,
and
wow.
when she was 1, so she had to stay in an ice tent for 2 weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
I was there with her every day, but we couldn't touch each other. Her little hand would just be up against the plastic, and she'd
Oh,
be
I can just
crying.
picture. Yeah,
Oh,
I
it
can
was
just picture
awful.
it.
It was awful, and
Oh,
I don't know if they even do that anymore. This was back in
yeah.
83, 84.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, anyway, it was horrible, and so she had a lot of, learning disabilities through school,
For
although
sure.
she was quite bright and
Yes.
ended up graduating from University of Waterloo with,
Wonderful.
on the dean's list. So,
Wow.
it didn't she found a way to work around her brain injuries.
That's right.
I say
Yes.
injuries because 2 of them is like, having one is bad.
Yeah.
Having another is twice as bad. I mean, because
Absolutely.
twice on top of the first one,
Yeah.
because the repeated injury is, it really the brain is very it's well protected in this cranium that we have, but
Mm-hmm.
um if something gets into it, like, or something in your skull breaks or something that hurts the brain, which is what happened with me because the brain was lacerated and
Yes.
plus the back and forth motion in the car
Yeah.
and and the stroke. So
Yes.
yeah, so my brain injury is pretty severe, probably from all of those things, right? But
When did you have a stroke?
during my brain surgery,
Okay.
because they did brain surgery because I had a bleed inside in my brain, so
Okay.
they had to open me up at the top, and
And make sure that they just squeeze that off.
yeah,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
that's absolutely. Now
hmm
you have mentioned a floccular nodular
yeah.
injury. So what is that and how does that affect you?
Well, what that is, it's the lobe. It's the
Mhm.
smallest lobe of the brain, but
Okay.
it's in the nape of your neck, right below the cerebellum,
Okay.
and right above the C1 disc. And
Oh,
as we discussed, mine was broken, right? So
yes.
that's why I got whacked really badly there with the floccular. Um, I- what's the
Floccular nodule. Yep.
co- floccular nodular? Yes,
Yes.
I took medical terminology when I went to business college,
Okay.
and I used to would have known all those things, but
Yep.
I don't know. That's a really hard one to pronounce.
That's a big one, I gotta
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, so it what the floccular nodular node does is it controls 2 things only. it only controls your balance, which I have huge problems with. That's my biggest problem. And
Mhm.
also controls your vision, like the control of your eyes. So
Okay.
so right now I'm doing training to try to steady my eyes, and hopefully then we can start working on the balance. But we have he this therapist discovered that, well, he did, I discovered him, and
Okay.
I have to drive quite a ways. He's almost in Toronto,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, so it's a good 2 hour drive, I think.
But when
And
it's the right person, it's so worth it,
you know what
you
they're
know?
doing, and like he said, like he tested me with cameras and goggles and computers and everything, and and to try to rate my severity.
Right.
And so from one to they rate it from 1 to 100. 60 is severe, and when he was finished, he told me that my rating was 87, which is pretty bad.
Wow.
He
That is bad.
might have been one of his worst, I think,
Wow.
but
Wow.
he wasn't sure. And so anyway, the goal is to get down to 60, which is the severe line, the bottom of the severe line. So I'm
But at the
hoping
same
that,
time, that's like a 27 benefit, like,
yeah.
improvement.
Oh, I
That's
know.
fantastic.
I might be able to just walk with a cane then, because
Nice.
I walk with a rollator walker when I'm outside,
Okay.
or if I
Okay.
go outside. So recently I've been so like with this therapy, with the vestibular therapy, you get extremely dizzier or lightheaded, or
Mm.
legs turn more to jelly than they were. And
Okay.
before it gets better. But it's
Yeah.
been 8 months now, and they say sometimes it can take up to a year or two.
Wow.
And he also said that's because it was the injury is so old. So my brain
Yes.
has been trained where I was kind of knocked around, right? And that's
Yeah.
where it stayed. So now they have to undo 20 years of that.
So
So
now it needs to be untrained to be retrained.
yes, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so I have to do these exercises 3 times a day, and they're visual exercises right now. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. And you've mentioned that you've written some articles, but you also told me that you have a difficult time with writing and reading. Tell
yes,
me about that.
it's slow. Everything is extremely slow.
Mhm.
Um, I used to be able to write an article for the Hamilton Spectator in an hour, and
Okay.
then it would end up as one maybe their chief article that week.
Ooh.
Some of them, not all of them. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just
But
saying.
still, that's
Was
awesome.
quick enough, and it's inborn. My mom was a writer, so
Yes.
um. But the question was,
With reading and writing,
yes,
how's your injury affected
yeah.
you?
So writing just takes me a long time. I did a
Right.
speech for the London Brain Injury Association last July,
Yeah.
and it took me. I started in April writing it
Mm.
every day, because that's how long it takes me to think through things. Like only maybe work for probably if I work well, it's probably half an hour a day. But
Wow.
when I
Okay.
and I did push myself. I
Yeah.
thought if I make mistakes, I'll just fix it the next day. I'll see it again.
Yes.
And that's how
Yeah.
long it took. Took like about 60, 70 days to write that speech. So that's where I still love to write though. It's just that I
Yeah.
have to be more patient. Reading
Absolutely.
reading is really difficult though. That's my eye
Right.
movements.
Yeah.
So I lose my place on the, like if I'm reading from a page, I will be reading along, then all suddenly my eyes will jump and they'll go down to
Mhm.
the bottom of the page. And then I've lost my place and I can't remember where it was. And then I
Right.
forget what I read. So, so now,
Yeah.
now I
It's
just,
actually similar to dyslexia in that way.
yeah, I
With
guess it
certain
is.
levels of dyslexia, that's exactly what happens. Your
Mhm.
eyes jump, and then
Okay.
your brain has forgotten where you were,
Yeah.
so it's tough to find out. So, in
Yeah.
that way, it's similar, not
Yeah.
at all for the
Okay.
same reason, but
Mhm.
yeah, the effect.
Yeah.
So,
So,
tell me about your healing journey. What have you done? You've done physiotherapy, and what else have you done to heal?
um, physio and um, occupational therapy, a
Mhm.
lot. Um, the first like I was in the hospital for 6.5 months. So
Yeah,
when I was in the hospital, I had um I'm sorry.
that's okay.
When I was in the hospital, I had every day they would come right to my room because
Right,
I couldn't move much. So they
right.
would come to my room, they'd do occupational therapy with me. So every day at the same time, it would be physio, then occupational, and then something else, speech therapy, because I
Mhm.
don't have to talk. Um, I had to relearn how to walk. So in physiotherapy, I started on those parallel bars.
Yes.
So and it took probably, I would say, at least 2 months before I could use a walker.
Wow.
Yeah, and then but to go outside, that was in the hospital. To
Yeah.
I was still in the wheelchair for most of the first year because the walker wasn't I was so unsteady.
Mhm.
After
You
a year,
needed somebody behind you just in case kinda thing.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then after a year, I finally ditched the wheelchair
Mhm.
and, um, and used a walker, and I still use that walker for any long distance. I try not to use it in the house. If I'm really dizzy that day, I will,
Yeah.
but otherwise, I keep it outside, and I just try to use my cane and hang on to the walls or furniture to get around in the house.
Right. So
Um,
dizziness still does affect you then?
oh, always. It's been 24/7 for 20 years.
Is it because of your eye movement?
They say it is actually now. Before
Okay.
we thought it was just brain injury alone, but now it's partially brain injury because it's the sixth nerve that was affected, that was
Right.
harmed, and so I have sixth nerve palsy.
Oh,
And yeah, so it just gives me. I had surgery a year ago for
okay.
to tighten up my eye muscles on each side because they were loose. I
Mhm.
couldn't even really see it. I didn't look like I was cross-eyed or
No.
wall-eyed or anything like that. But yeah. Anyway, so they did that, and then I had to wait for a few months before I could start the vestibular therapy, and that's when I started because they wanted to make sure it had all healed before I started doing eye exercises.
Right.
Yeah.
So what keeps you busy these days?
I still like the same things.
Mhm.
I used to be a long distance hiker.
Oh,
And, like, I used to walk, the rail trail in Hamilton, which would have connected with the Bruce Trail up to
okay.
Northern Ontario.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, I mean, by long distance, I mean, the longest I would probably hike would be 3 hours because I had kids and they didn't like
Right.
to walk. They came with me to the starting point where the picnic area was, but
Right.
they didn't go too far with me. But
Okay.
so anyway, that's I did that on weekends, and then every day I'd walk back and forth to McMaster where I worked, and
Okay.
I that was a 45-minute walk, so an
Okay.
hour and a half each day, and then
Yeah.
after supper, if the kids were, doing some activity or something, I
Mhm.
would, I'd go out and go down Coots Paradise. It's a nice wooded area near the university where I worked.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, yeah. So, I
That
mean, it
sounds beautiful.
maybe 3 times a week I could do that. If the kids were in brownies or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but,
So now since the injury, how do you keep busy? Now that you've healed to an
yeah,
extent,
right. Well, my first concern was the hiking. So
right?
I replaced the walker I had for
Mhm.
a heavy duty hiking walker.
Oh,
It's one that's made in Sweden,
wow.
and it's much wider, and it's got wheels like this big on it.
Yeah,
I get a lot of comments on it, but,
like an
um
all-terrain vehicle,
it
but
is,
for
it
walkers.
looks like that, same as my
Oh,
scooter,
that's
it's so wide because of my balance. Like, it's
oh,
just wide, and
wonderful.
the tires are, like, probably 10 inches wide.
Wow.
Yeah, so it looks like a
A
all-terrain
hot
vehicle,
rod.
but I can't go on the street, I have to stay on the sidewalk. So
Right.
if I meet anybody on the sidewalk, I just immediately pull over onto the
Yes.
grass
Yeah.
so they can buy me. But yeah, yeah, so that was my main thing. So I was hiking around the neighborhood, like, maybe 45 minutes for a
Right.
while, and then when I started this therapy, I s I it I got so bad that I couldn't continue. So
Right.
I'm mostly housebound now. So, but I can still do things in the house. Like I
Okay.
I love baking.
Yes.
I don't cook as much anymore,
Mhm.
and it's hard to follow recipes. So I try to just make the things that my mother taught me when I was, with no recipe because she never used a recipe. Handful of
Absolutely.
this, handful of that, yeah.
That's right.
But so there was that. Uh, so I bake a lot, and I take my baking to church. I give it to my grandkids. You know,
Mhm.
I can't eat a lot of it, but
And I shouldn't either, but I do.
well, I try to stay away from the gluten because it's funny. My doctor actually told me
Oh,
he suggested it, and he's not a holistic doctor at all. He's the old
right.
school kind, right? But he said,
Yeah.
he said a lot of people have had good results getting rid of the gluten, and it was, it
Hmm.
was a miracle. Like
Okay.
my joint pain really went down.
Wow.
Um, my stomach I was never bloated. My stomach was never upset.
Yeah.
So I mean, I
So
still eat
gluten
carbs.
obviously had been a problem
Yeah,
without you even knowing it.
exactly. So I mean, I eat,
Okay.
eat flaxseed every
Yeah.
day, like quite a bit of it in a
Okay.
smoothie or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, so I get my carbs a little bit, but they're very complex, right? So
Right.
yeah,
And
and
complex carbs are the best ones for you. Like, it's
oh,
good
for
for
sure,
digestion, and it's really healthy.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So and then so that's baking. I sew sometimes. I used to sew a lot. I sewed old kids' clothes growing up, but I
Right.
still sew a little bit. I've got a
Yeah.
couple projects on the go,
Okay.
and as long as I'm just sitting there looking straight ahead at the sewing machine, then I'm fine.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
but I got to start turning. That's what I'm supposed to be doing with this therapy. Got to
So you
start.
have to do
Oh,
slowly
yeah,
until you can do it faster again,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
and I paint. So I do a lot of painting. Or I have actually. Right now, I'm under renovations, as you've seen the renovation guy go back and forth. Um,
Yes.
um, he is splitting my front room. Like
Mm.
my the main house at the front is 155 years old or something. So it's a
Wow.
century home. And so I'm splitting
Yeah.
24-foot long living room in it. So what I've done is he's putting a false wall up for me so that I can
Mhm.
use one side as a studio and people won't have to see the paint all over, right?
Right. Yes.
So
My
and then
studio's in the basement, so it's kinda, like, all enclosed. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a mess.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing, you gotta hide it, right?
You do.
Put it on the kitchen table, which I probably would, except
Yeah.
that except that then I'm not a very much of a clean freak, but
Mm.
I like it to be clean when people come to visit.
For sure.
I don't want them to
Yes.
see how messy I am. Yeah, yeah, but,
So you've given me some photographs of some of the paintings
mhm.
you've done. Have you done these ones after your injury or before your injury?
Um, trying to think of them all now. I think most of them were done after my injury because before my brain injury, I sold all my portraits.
Right.
They were commissions, right? So I
Right.
didn't really have anything on hand.
Right.
So yeah, those would be all after, but a few years after, because I lost
Okay.
my ability to draw and paint. Think about 2007. So this happened 2003, but and
Mhm.
in 2007, I did have a solo art show at the Gallery on the Bridges in Saskatoon.
Wow,
So, and it
nice.
wasn't as good as before, but you know what? I was pleased to do something different than portrait.
Well,
I
let's
mean, I love
take a look
portrait. Oh,
let's take a look at some of
yeah.
your art. Let us decide if
Oh,
it's
okay.
as good, okay? So, we're gonna
Okay.
start with a picture of you in your studio. Tell us what
Mm.
this is.
That is the book I'm currently illustrating. So
Okay.
what you see there is three canvases on the easel at
Mhm.
once, and I paint in oil, and I've been doing that since the '70s. So I tried acrylic. I can't use it. It just dries too quickly, and it just messes
Right.
me up. So I
Yeah.
now I'm back in oil. So that is three illustrations for this book that I'm illustrating, and
Okay.
so that's just the layout, the sketching. what I do is I'll paint on the top one first, like the first day,
Right.
and like say like just background colors and things like that. And
Mhm.
then the next day it's extremely still wet, right? So the next day
Mhm.
I'll work on the middle one, the second one. On the third day I'll work on the bottom one.
Okay. So
And
by the time the 3rd day's done,
then I
the
can start
top one
on
is
the top.
available.
Yeah. And then I start adding all the
Oh,
details.
great
So
system.
yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, so that's how I'm doing it. And this book will have 18 illustrations rather than 12 that I did illustrate a picture book.
Okay,
Um,
let's take a look at the front of that picture
oh,
book.
there it is. Yeah,
There it is. And
yeah.
this is the type of detail that you get into. And if this isn't as good as before, honey.
You know what? I'm quite happy with this picture, and
Yes.
because I don't like hyperrealism. I mean, I love it.
Right.
I admire it
Me
big
too.
time. But I like my painting to look like a painting, not like a photo.
Mm,
I
okay.
just go and get a photo done.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, so I like seeing brush strokes and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So this one is most of a picture that you have on your wall currently. Tell
right.
us what's in this picture.
That is a picture of it's near Caryvale, Saskatchewan,
Mhm.
right near the border of the States. And
Mhm.
that's where mom grew up. And so I've been down this many times that this is basically painted from memory of some of the valleys,
Right.
right? So I don't even know if her farm overlooked a hill like that. I really don't.
Right.
But I thought, well, I'm just going to place her in southern Saskatchewan. And that little girl on the calf is my mom, an old picture from 1928 when she was
Wow.
5 or 6. And
Mhm.
she would halter train calves because
Oh,
her
wow.
dad wouldn't let her ride the big work horses, right? And
And
so
a
she would
cow
make
is so much safer, isn't it?
yeah, well, supposed to go like that, but she made the halter, and
Right?
she halter trained him, and she was taught well, and she
Oh,
became an
okay.
amazing. Became a major horsewoman. She grew up, and when we were growing up, she was a, a 4-H horse club leader,
Mhm.
things like that. So yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful. Okay,
mhm.
let's take a look at the next one.
Oh yeah, this one it's kind of cut off a little bit again,
Yeah.
but this is a picture of a friend's
Mhm.
um in-laws, but her in well, it's her mother-in-law, her brother and sister-in-laws, and her father-in-law.
Okay.
And so all of those people have passed away, unfortunately, even the
Oh,
young guy
wow.
playing the guitar. And
Wow.
so I just did it for them to have a keepsake of their family.
Absolutely. What a beautiful keepsake. Like, that looks like just a joyous moment in the
Yeah,
life kind of thing.
and so if this was a full square, it's actually a square painting. So if that was a full
Okay.
square, you'd see clouds all around the outside. So
Yes.
that's it's just kind of meaning ethereal, right? Like heavenly.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so the peek through the clouds as to
Hmm.
what they're probably up to today kind of
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, and they were wonderful people.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
good.
Just wonderful people. Yes.
Okay, let's take a look at this one.
Yeah. This is one I did for a friend who lives out towards Lake Huron.
Okay.
And so they have a maple, they have 10 acres of maples. And
Oh,
that
wow.
the building at the back is a barn, but the building
Okay.
that you see in the foreground,
Yeah.
it's a maple syrup shack, a maple sugar shack, like to make.
Ah,
They used to apparently make a lot of maple syrup,
for
and the
sure.
people before them, obviously, right? So, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just beautiful out there.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
Probably
this is
shouldn't
New Lake Huron,
picture because the colors aren't as good as oh well. Anyway, it's more of a the trees are more reddish because of the sun is setting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. When you mention it, I can see it, and I can see the direction of the sun coming in
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah,
down and from the side.
yeah.
Oh, that is, yeah, I can see
Mhm,
that. Oh,
yeah.
wow, what wonderful detail.
Yeah.
And then this one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's a friend's log cabin up in northern
Yeah,
Saskatchewan.
okay.
And it was one that his dad had built in the early 1900s.
Mhm.
I think that there was a fire and then it was rebuilt in the 60s,
Oh, okay.
but it's the same spot. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was something I'd never really painted before. I animals too. I mean, you know,
The fur on the ears of the moose is
yeah,
it's incredible. That's
yeah.
gorgeous.
I think that picture might be square as well. I paint a lot of square
Mm,
pictures, but
okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
hmm,
that's wonderful. Oh, those are beautiful. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I could say that, I guess I did see a couple of your portraits, which were gorgeous.
hmm,
In particular, one of your mother. Oh,
yeah.
my word, she just looked just alive in
I
that
love
picture.
that one. Can I go get
Yes, it is. Oh, sure.
it? That's my favorite. Maybe it's because it's her though.
Okay. Oh, no, that's not a problem.
There we go. You see that?
Absolutely. Look at her. She just looks like she's alive.
Yeah,
Oh,
and you know
what a
what?
wonderful
I don't
picture.
know. I don't know if all portraits do this. Maybe they do, but her eyes follow me everywhere. So
Yes.
if I'm sitting to her left, she's looking down at me. If I hang it to the right, she's also looking down at me. It's weird. I don't
It
know how
is
that.
weird, but sometimes it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I always feel like she's with me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. And once you're no longer in possession of it, I'm assuming it's going to go to one of your children?
It will probably, yeah, I'm hoping that one of them will take it and
Yeah.
switch. And I've painted both my girls and my dad. I just
Oh, yes.
didn't want to like both paintings out, but yeah. So my father.
Oh. Oh, no, there we go. Okay. I no, I did it. I thought I did it wrong, but I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
We're
Okay.
good. We're
Good.
good.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell us some of the other achievements that you've done. So you're an artist, you're a book illustrator. What else?
Um, uh, I love writing.
Mhm.
What else do I do? I don't know. I'm a grandma.
Yeah,
I do a lot of artwork with my grandkids.
right.
So they learn how to, do pastels and watercolors and pencil. Although they
Right.
probably know more about watercolor than I do because
Mm.
it's one of those that I can't really get down properly. But
I don't have the patience for watercolor.
no,
I like acrylic because it does dry quickly.
oh, I know,
Um,
and I understand that. But the thing is, when
yeah,
you're trained from childhood to paint with in oil, and you can move the
right.
paint around for like 3 days after, suddenly,
Yes,
"Ah, I can't move it now. I'm
exactly.
so
What
dry."
do you mean I can't change it?
I know. I know. I like to get my
Yeah,
fingers in there and move it around and
yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I seem to recall you had a speaking engagement at an
Yes,
ABI conference.
right. So the London Brain Injury Association at their annual conference last year had me speak about my brain injury and it was a half hour, so it was kind of tough. And
That's
I'd worked on that speech in writing. The speech was in mid-June and I started
mhm.
April 1st. So it was
Okay.
over 2 months that I worked on it. April, May,
Wow.
June, yeah, over 2 months that I worked on it. But that's because everything is so slow. My processing
Mhm.
is so slow. And
Mhm.
I will, you could ask me a question and I could say the wrong thing and without even knowing it. Like often
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
buying television one time and giving my old Hamilton uh, postal code to him for the address, and
Right.
I'm living in Saskatoon. He's
Wrong
yeah,
province.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, but the question again,
Some of
it's
your
processing.
achievements.
Yes. So yeah, I mean I still write, but it takes a long time. I don't
Mhm.
write as well. Um, uh, I love the outdoors.
Mhm.
I just like to sit out there and get some sun, like not tan, but I like
No,
to side.
just feel the
Yeah,
sun on your face.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a
And
beautiful thing.
mhm,
I like to do that except for the mosquitoes.
right.
I don't like the mosquitoes.
Yeah, and just on the topic of mosquitoes, mosquitoes aren't as big, aren't there's a little rumor that mosquitoes are just huge out in Saskatchewan and
Yeah,
Manitoba.
yeah.
That's not true. That's not true.
No?
They're the same size here in Stratford. But
Okay.
but it's funny, one of the, towns in Manitoba has a humongous, like a 30-foot sculpture of
Yep,
a mosquito,
yep,
and I doubt I've never been there, but I've been to Winnipeg, and it wasn't far away.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
mosquitoes
oh,
are the provincial bird of Manitoba, so
well, that's what they say, but
yeah,
a small bird,
yeah.
don't think big. Yeah,
Yes.
but,
So what is it that you're aiming toward now that you're
well
doing the vestibular, therapy? What
mhm.
sorts of things are you looking toward doing?
Well, I am trying to, I wanna get that book finished. I wanna get this book illustrated,
Right?
and I'm gonna try to get it published. I'm gonna look for a publisher this time, like a publishing house.
Okay.
Self-publishing is great for, family and
Mhm.
friends, and, Greg Nelson, who wrote that Mean John Pink, he,
Right.
he has sold quite a lot of them. Mean John Pink,
Oh,
he's out of Regina, but he
okay.
has them up on, um, Indigo and on the Indigo site and stuff, so
Wow.
get them through him, and
Okay.
actually,
Are
if
they
you
on Amazon at all?
no, no,
Not
they
on
probably
Amazon
should
yet.
be. They probably should be,
They
but
should be because
yeah,
people all over, especially North America, who are used to being at a hockey rink,
yeah,
the images and the story are so compelling and so real
I
for
know.
us who grew up in that type of,
I
environment.
think he'd sell a ton of them on Amazon. I really
Absolutely.
do,
Yeah.
but he's very busy. He's a mediator in Regina, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, so he's really busy, and maybe if he retires one day,
If
um,
one day he
yeah,
chooses, yeah.
yeah, maybe he can, do all the Amazon stuff and things too, but
Yeah.
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 But, so that was the one I have done. That was self-published, but he's done well on we definitely made our money back and
Oh,
more.
good.
Yeah,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah. So that was good. But the book I'm working on right now it's an old public domain poem from the
Oh,
1800s, and
oh.
I want to illustrate it. And it's kind of Canadian, so I want to illustrate it and see if I could get it published.
Oh, that
Um,
sounds wonderful.
my other goal is to be able to walk, at least with just my cane.
Mhm.
I don't care if I have to use a cane. It's
Right.
just that the walker is so cumbersome
Yeah.
and plus if I'm getting a ride somewhere, if I'm going somewhere,
So
um,
much easier with a cane.
I can just take the cane, right? And I can do
Yes.
it now because the driver will just help me get to the car.
Right.
I'll sit in the car, get to their house, get out of the car, they help me in. I sit down.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah. Mm.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
So,
and then
Lila,
I guess I was gonna say
nope.
one more goal was just
Yes.
to be able to like, I'll never drive again. I just don't trust myself anyway, even though
Mm,
it wasn't my fault. I
mhm.
just don't trust anybody on the highway now, and
Right.
so so I just like to hang out with the kids and see them graduate from high school and university and or college,
Mhm.
wherever they go,
Right.
and I went to 2 grade 8 graduations for my grandsons in June.
Nice.
That was fun. Yeah,
Yes.
very cool. They're so
Oh.
tall. Mhm.
And watching children grow up, as a parent, that's one thing because you have to parent, right?
Exactly.
But as a
Yeah,
grandparent, you have more flexibility and more
yeah,
freedom, and
yeah,
when they start to annoy you, you can give them back to their parents and
yeah,
all
I
of
guess
that
that's
stuff.
true, right?
Yeah.
That's true. I don't babysit them. I mean
No.
actually, the 14 and 15-year-old,
Right.
um, can come here anytime they want, but
Okay.
it's like I have a 5-year-old granddaughter whom
Ah,
I'm not quite ready to babysit or be alone with yet because I don't it's me. I have to be able to trust my steadiness. I've never picked
absolutely.
I've never picked them up as babies. Like, they were all
Oh,
I always sat down in a chair and they always handed them to me,
yes.
and
So
but
you
my
have held
9-year-old
them, but you
yeah,
didn't actually.
yeah, I couldn't walk around with them. Uh,
Right.
so and then my 9-year-old is quite independent too, so she can stay here anytime too, but
Well, that's
little
wonderful.
little Charlotte is yet to come. I'm hoping soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, it is nice to see them grow up into actual human beings,
Yeah,
where they make their own decisions, they have their own choices, they have their own opinions.
right.
And sometimes they really push back on the adults, but
Mhm.
it is nice to see them flex their arms and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a joy. Like, I think the the greatest accomplishment I've ever had in my life was my kids. And
Oh,
I'm
that's
sure a lot of people
wonderful.
say that, but I truly mean that. I mean, I could have been a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
I could just paint and be a mom,
Right.
you know, and cook.
If you could afford it.
Yeah, if I could have
Yeah.
afforded it, yeah, but I
Yes.
yeah, when I moved to Hamilton as a 24-year-old or
Hmm.
23-year-old, 24, I continued to stay at home. I had a new baby. I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and,
Hmm.
uh, and then, it just financially, it's so much harder to
Yeah,
survive in a big city.
absolutely.
Yeah, there's more money in small towns, and there's lower, uh, mortgages and rents and everything, so
Yeah, the cost of living is so much more affordable, isn't it?
it is. It is, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Lila.
Mhm.
I am so grateful to get to know you a little better. I
Yeah,
haven't seen like in person. I haven't seen her since I was like this tall.
you were
Um,
3. You were
I was
3.
3,
Yes.
and yeah, it's been a minute. So
It's nice to meet you, for sure.
it's
Yeah,
very nice to
feel like I
actually
know you
meet
now.
you. So
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah,
So thank you again for coming, and I will have to definitely make sure that we talk again soon.
okay, alright.
Okay.
Thanks a
Bye
lot.
bye.